Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Do you know how to run a kinetic company? Can you transform your existing organization into something that's adaptable, that's agile, knows how to respond to a rapidly changing marketplace? If you don't feel comfortable with that, you want to make sure you're watching this particular edition of WowBiz Nebraska. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. It's a pleasure to have you once again. We're approaching nearly 100 shows right here at KPAO in Omaha, Nebraska. I love it. And I appreciate so much your attendance and your viewing. But let's talk for a second before we get to the kinetic thing. It's such an exciting word, and everybody wants to do it, by the way, but they just don't know exactly where to go. But I want to talk to you very briefly first about a phrase and about the importance of metaphors. Now, metaphors are powerful if you're a speaker, and they're really powerful if you're in sales. I'm going to give you an example right now, the whole elevator speech thing. And I want you to just think about it for a second. I've got a little kind of a secret to share with you when I get through this. Somebody will say to me occasionally, of course, we operate with Nebraska Consulting, and they'll say, what do you guys do? I don't really know too much about you. And instead of saying, well, we train and we coach and we analyze and we provide direction for our clients and so on, I simply pause for a minute and I say, we are a flashlight, we are a battery. We are your battery and we are your flashlight. At that point, I stop for a second and I wonder, and about 9 out of 10 times people go, oh, great, yeah, I kind of like that. See, they're expecting something descriptive and functional, and instead they get something inspirational and even like dreamlike. But they get it, see, they understand, and all those tactical definitions, they all kind of fit together underneath. We energize your company and we give you a path, a view of the way forward. We're your flashlight and we're your battery. Now this is a really interesting thing because so many companies are a little bit, how do I say it? There's a little malaise, they're a little indifferent, they're just doing the same old thing they were doing 2, 3, 4 years ago before the pandemic and so on. They're not sure what else they're supposed to be doing. And so as a result, energy begins to kind of decrease incrementally. It's hard to see at first, but you can just tell people leave the office early. They show up a little bit late. See? But when you hire or bring in some outsider that is your, quote, battery, you know you're going to get some energy, right? Some energy that comes out of nowhere, which is very interesting. And of course, the metaphor with the flashlight and illuminating the future, because really, come on, if you knew what was going to go on in your industry and in culture in general, and we're going to talk about that too, you would move forward with a greater sense of decision, greater focus, decisiveness, and you'd say, we're going to be ready for this because that moment is coming, so let's get our resources reallocated. Right? And let's optimize what the company is right now with the intention, thinking all about what the future, because really today is the future, all right? If you're doing the things I'm suggesting to you, not only will you become a kinetic company, but you will become future oriented. And that's a very healthy thing to do. But as a result of that, when you kind of are thinking, and that's your mindset, you have to realize you're going to operate a little bit differently. You're going to make more changes. You're going to move this guy over here, and we're going to change this department and give these people more resources because they seem to be able to generate revenue and so on. We're going to move things around, and some people internally will go, I don't know, it seems like we're moving awful fast around here. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, and you know this before I even say it, the world is changing rapidly, and so is Nebraska, and so is Omaha, Nebraska, and every other community in the country. We're all trying to figure out how fast do we have to move, and are we relevant? That's the key question. Is our value proposition relevant? Are what we base our incomes on, right? The money that's coming into that's coming into the business. Are we really that relevant? It's a fascinating question to ask. And if you get a consulting firm with you, somebody who's really thoughtful, that can be a very helpful. You can spend an hour talking about relevance. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, we'll veer off for just a second, but this is fascinating. Since 1997, I have been cataloging change. I've been cataloging trends. And I read about it in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the Omaha World Herald, you know, just different places, of course, magazines a lot. And so you read about a trend, how things are changing in society, right? And then you distill them down into maybe like one paragraph or two at the most. And you just stumble across it every time you come across a new trend. You know, women in the marketplace and their new power. What is digital transformation? What does that really mean? See, how rapidly is the creative industry going to adapt to AI, artificial intelligence, and what's going to happen there? These are all trends. And as things shift, you know, and energy moves in one direction or another, it can either leave you out of the mix or it can put you right in the mix. But you have to know. You have to know what direction you're going, and you have to be able to optimize it, leverage it. Of course, leverage is a huge word, but I'm guaranteeing you, if you can connect yourself, I'm going to give you an example. If you can connect yourself to an emerging trend and say, hey, you see that over there? That's what we are. We follow that. We're about that. People go, oh, okay, hey, you know. I just learned the other day that the Secretary General, Vivek Murthy is his name, he's very concerned about loneliness in America. And he's likening it to, I mean, as if it's a plague, loneliness as a social isolation and so on. And he doesn't quite know exactly what to do about it. And then the live music industry heard about this out of New York and elsewhere and said, now wait a minute, if we could orchestrate somehow live events periodically with a theme about loneliness and all that, and we can get people to identify themselves, which is very difficult, and come forth and say, yeah, I do live by myself. My husband passed away or whatever, and so I spend most of my time by myself. It's kind of lonely. And somebody can arrange to get them to a live event, some kind of a concert or informal event where there's live music. Now, when you do that, people begin to kind of come together, and they're clapping, and hey, how you doing? I love this, you know. That was my husband's favorite song, blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon we're talking. Pretty soon we have relationships. Pretty soon we have friendships. Loneliness goes away as a result of pre-organized live events. Now, you know, it's just an example, right? It's not maybe the best, but it is a macro trend in our society, loneliness. By the way, it's particularly applicable to young people. People 18 to 25 in that area spend a lot of time on their phones. As a result, they're not socializing very aggressively, and they don't have the friendships that they used to have or other generations did. So they're lonely as well, you know. So it's a very interesting thing if you can associate your company, your value, with some kind of a macro trend. People go, these guys, man, they're ahead of the curve. They're ahead of the curve. But you know what? Towards the back end of the show, I'm going to talk to you about 3 new services that are coming out of Nebraska. Very interesting. One's called Trust TV. We're going to talk about distrust in America. Another one's called Power Dynamics. This is focused on specifically attorneys. Very interesting. Of course, we all respect attorneys. They're achievement-driven, very intelligent people. But they have some issues, and we're going to talk about that. Well, you'll find that interesting, I think. And then, of course, as you might know, there's a tremendous turbulence right now in Omaha, Nebraska, and elsewhere, where the property taxes have gone up to about 12% on average, gone up that much. That means you're paying a lot more money if you own your home, more money than perhaps you can afford. So then you're going to go, well, I'm going to have to sell. Well, as a result, salespeople are all over. They're excited. They're moving forward. I'll help you with your sale. It's a very interesting trend, and it's sparking tremendous sharp selling in the real estate sales industry. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Once again, linking a trend to your value proposition. And are you really relevant? Are you the kind of company that the buyer needs as the world shifts towards you or away from you? Very interesting. All right. Thanks again for watching us here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. It's a pleasure to have you here. And this particular segment of WowBiz Nebraska is brought to you by Fleming's Restaurant here in the Omaha area, one of the finest restaurants in the entire area. Most people know about it. It's in the Regency era, kind of in the western edge of Omaha, south of the Westroads Mall area. And Fleming's is it's a stunning restaurant, like I said before, but I want to talk to you right now about something very special. Very special. This is, they have a wonderful wine menu. They serve a tremendous exotic wines, tremendous steak and filet, and it's just top notch. But there are other restaurants that do something similar. But I'm going to talk to you right now about something talk about linking it to a trend. You know, the whole world, and Nebraska is no exception really, is in kind of a mess, right? There's a lot of conflict, a lot of sadness, a lot of feelings of I'm out of sync with, we're out of sync, things aren't the way they should be. We're in a bit of a mess, right? We're in a bit of a mess, and people will tell you, yeah, that's really true, unfortunately. I try to ignore it, I try not to talk about it, but things are kind of messy out there. But when you go into Fleming's, there's an area. There's the bar, as many restaurants are, and then you have your big dining room over here. But in between, there's kind of a short wall, and there's 3 or 4 small booths, particularly small booths. And they're kind of intimate. When you sit there, you're not at the bar, you're not in the large dining room, you're right there, and it's perfect for 2 people. And it fosters a feeling, it was like almost watching The Godfather, only in a very contemporary way, because there's a sense of intimacy and aura in these small booths between the bar and the dining room. In fact, it would be a wonderful place if you were trying to make a sale to somebody and establish a real tight relationship, or maybe, it's kind of romantic, maybe be a place where you would propose to a potential spouse. Right there, again, at Fleming's. So here's the theme line that I think, it's not about food, right? It's not about the environment, although it's a beautiful dining room, well maintained. But when you put it all together, it touches you in a place that nobody else seems to understand. So outside of Fleming's, it's a bit of a mess. Life is a bit of a mess. Inside Fleming's, there's transformative energy there. Everything seems like yes. I'm going to say that again, yes. Outside Fleming's, everything's a mess. But when you walk into that restaurant and you sit in these particular booths, you can lean across the table and ask somebody to marry you, and you know they're going to say yes. It's not a mess. In Fleming's restaurant in Omaha, Nebraska, everything is about yes. If I were to write a theme or a slogan or something like that, I'd put on the front door, very classy, beautiful. All it would say is yes, yes, yes. And that's what we're looking for in life, isn't it? When we go to a restaurant like this, we're looking for affirmation. We're looking for positive energy. And whether we're selling somebody to somebody, setting up a relationship, maybe forming a marriage, whatever it is, there is a word. It's the opposite of mess. It's the opposite of mess. It's yes. All right. That's right. Go to Fleming's in Omaha, Nebraska. Go to Regency. Check it out. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Ask for those key seats right there. Say, I'm in a yes mood. General manager will know exactly what you're talking about. Make sure that you have a yes evening. Always radiate. When you leave that restaurant, it's all about yes. Just think about that. It's powerful. It's beyond taste. It's beyond taste. It's about perception and energy. That's right. Fleming's, thank you so much for sponsoring WowBiz Nebraska right here. And again, I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thanks for joining us at this show. We're so excited to see you. There's so much to talk about in the business sector. As a result of the things that are changing out there, and we talk about this all the time, it creates demand for certain services that are customized, well, for a certain kind of person or a certain career, like real estate sales agents and so on. So I'm going to talk to you. We've actually created, there are some services out there now that are available that help people rise to the occasion. Rise to the occasion, take advantage of what's happening around them. And instead of just saying, well, I'm just kind of muddling along, do what I did last year, last month, whatever. No, no, no. Now is the time. Change is all around you. It's swirling. You got to pick your moment. You got to pick your moment. So we're going to talk right now about real estate. And by the way, you're going to meet some real estate gurus coming up on WowBiz Nebraska in the near future. But Essentially, as I mentioned earlier in the show, property taxes have gone up on homes in Omaha, Nebraska, and elsewhere in the general area. And they've gone up dramatically, and nobody expected them to go up the way they are going up. This has something to do with inflation, but there's more to it than that. So people are nervous. You're talking about actual, cash money on top of your monthly mortgage. And some people have it, and some people don't. Nothing to be ashamed of there, but that's the reality. They just weren't planning. They weren't prepared for it. So, in many cases, they have to sell the house. They have to downscale, find some other home they can afford because the amount they have to pay every month is more than they expected. So, salespeople know that. We have a number of we have 3,000 real estate salespeople in Omaha, Nebraska. 3,000. And a good portion of them would like to do better, would like to do more. A lot of them make between $50,000 and $75,000 a year, which is not a bad wage by any means, but that's basically 4, 5, 6 transactions a year, all right? The average real estate salesperson makes about $7,200 if they're listing on both sides, if they're representing the seller and the buyer. And of course, you got to pay a portion of that to the broker. But most agents aren't like that. They're representing the seller, perhaps. That's what you begin with. So that's about half of that. So that gets you down to about $3,000, $3,500, $4,000, right in that area. That's the amount of money they're making these days when they work with a seller. Get them out of their home, help them find somebody else. So they need that money, right? They want to get those sales commissions, and now is the time. So if you talk to the average homeowner who's maybe looking for an agent, doesn't have anybody in mind necessarily, they're looking for certain things. First of all, they want to know them. They want to kind of see them. They want people who are obviously knowledgeable. Also people that are likable that they would want to have in their home regularly and so on. So we put together a concept called first choice prospecting system. And that's really what they need is prospecting help. They want to get in front of as many people as possible, and hopefully potential sellers will say, she's pretty sharp. She seems really nice. Let's talk to her. See? So to get that reaction or response from the average home seller, they've got to do some things, not just one thing. All right, that's not going to be it. They have to do a lot of things. But the very first thing is they don't have a personal branding package. It's extremely important. When you walk across the street and you're in the world of business or whatever, someone's going to look at you and say, that person, blah, blah, blah. I like that person or I don't like that person, depending on how you look, what you say, who you know, what you're all about, all that. You've got to hone that brand, your personal brand. A lot of people are just not familiar with that. They don't really know much about that. So that's a marketing thing. It takes a little time to coach people to understand what it is that people like about them, who they really are, and what they want to show or emphasize when they're meeting potential prospects. I'm sure you understand what I mean. After that, it's kind of a cool idea to somehow get a paid, I don't want to call it an infomercial, but some kind of a thing where we can look at them face to face. Could be in a podcast studio, could be in their their offices or in their retail store. It doesn't matter too much. But have them answer certain questions. First of all, who are they and how did they end up in running this company and owning this company? But the other thing is this. The answer to the following question is key insofar as cultivating trust and credibility. Because what people really want to know is, what do people not understand? What do customers not understand about when they're selecting, a vendor? What don't they know? They don't know how to select the right vendor. They don't know how to choose one over the other. They all say the right things. They all seem knowledgeable, but maybe a little distrusted. So it's very difficult. You've got to educate the potential customer without getting too detailed and too technical, and let them know, here's what you didn't know about this transaction, all right? And I'm going to share it with you. And as a result of that, people are going to say, man, he told me what was up. Let's go with him because he laid it all out there. All right, so now another thing, Audio podcasts, very powerful, very frequent. People, even older people, are starting to listen more to them. Great advice, quite entertaining in some cases. So these are, again, real estate agents need to go through the podcasting process, where they're expected to share how to choose the right person, how to utilize it, what they should ask, what they shouldn't ask, and people really appreciate that kind of education. Then books or booklets. Let's call it booklets. We're not going to write a book about somebody or the neighborhood they represent or know something about, but we could certainly do a booklet, right? Now, these should not be brochures. This is the number one thing that people don't understand when they're hiring somebody who's a marketing person. They say, oh yeah, I want to be, every single page is going to be about me and tell everybody how great I am, blah, blah, blah. But really, that's not what the end user wants. They want inside research, charts, information, quotes, what inspire me, whatever it is. But they definitely want to, they want to be educated. They don't want to act like a fool and make the wrong decision. So if you're the one educating them, and you do it in a kind of a clever, maybe artistic fashion, that is a really solid investment, although it can take a lot of time and money. So that's that piece. And then finally, maybe like we do right here on this particular show, some kind of an infomercial endorsement. You know, a third-party endorsement, we all know this. A third-party endorsement is far more powerful than, saying, hey, I did this, I'm great at that, blah, blah, blah. If somebody can say, hey, let me just tell you about this guy. He's incredible here. He's really great there. If you need help with this or that, he or she is really good. People go, okay, that's persuasive. I believe it when he talks about that. So those are 5 steps, 5 ways to earn the trust and the credibility of the seller in this turbulent and kind of exciting chapter of real estate in eastern Nebraska. By the way, one quick thing, some of you know attorneys or have worked with attorneys in the past. They're very bright people. A lot of them come out of Creighton, as you know, but what's interesting about them is they're go, 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 right? They're go, go, go. And they want to achieve, want to get more done, and they want to get more fees. And they have a tendency, if you're an attorney, what you're doing is you're looking to the past. You're doing research. You're trying to find out what case went down a year, 5 years ago. Can we apply that to this case and win the case? So they're always looking to the past. They're very technically oriented, very deductive and rational. But there's a whole different side to this thing, which is knowing what your client's personality is, right? Knowing what they really want, how they're feeling about things, what their psychology is, what the philosophy that they have, or even half-life philosophy about this topic that they're asking you to help them with. A lot of times, attorneys are really good, they're deductive, but they don't really know who they are personally. They're a little weak in that area. And finally, the other thing is that a lot of them just get plain burnt out. They make a little bit more money every year, but the bottom line is you got to go, 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 right? And there's no stopping, and the boss always wants one more case, one more client. A lot of them, by the way, don't know how to get a client. This is a serious thing. They don't understand business development. The boss wants them to mix with a lot of people at chamber meetings and so on. They think it's all about the web and just sending out emails or social media posts and so on. So there's a very interesting philosophical conflict in law offices about how do we get some more business? And then when we get the business, bam, 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 we got to win the argument, win the whole deal, and move on to the next one as fast as possible. And a lot of attorneys are just plain burnt out. They can't do it anymore. It takes up 6-7 days a week. So it's very interesting, these attorneys, what they're going through a transition. The whole career is, as the older guys kind of retire, the younger folks are wondering, what is the purpose of this firm, you know? And is there something else that I'm missing? And that leads us to the end of this entire show, which is the whole issue in workforce, meaning. What is the meaning of work? What is the meaning of my career? Am I really doing something that I won't regret later, something I'll feel proud about? Is there some other level, some other dimension, some other aspect of my existence beyond just winning another case and booking another $500? All right? So a very, very interesting show here today. And I want to thank you so much for watching WowBiz Nebraska. We do things and talk about things nobody else talks about. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. We'll have equally interesting insights about your career, your industry, and the opportunities that are facing you right now. Thanks again.